On our walk in the village of Lao Chai and Ta in Sapa, we are going to make a short stop in a small hamlet of the Giay or Nian ethnic group from this region. And I would like to introduce you to the architecture of the Giay people's house in this region. It's really special. It's not like the other houses of the Romande ethnic group. The Giay house looks like this, as you can clearly see. With the roof, of course, it's always made of fiber or cement. And then the main entrance is set a bit back. And on both sides, there are two sections that stick out a little more. And especially at the entrance, there is always something that represents the inner life of the Nian people here. So now, I invite you to come with me to take a closer look, please. There you go. That's how it is. It's a kind of house that's really typical of the ethnicai in this village. So you always have the main entrance door with both sides set back just a little bit. And before the entrance, there are always incense sticks like this. This is meant to ward off evil spirits that might enter the house. And then here on both sides, there are little red marks like this. So the color red. As I've told you several times, it's a symbol of life, serenity, and also prosperity. And then the house is made of wood like this. And many, many other things are made of bamboo. So they built their houses, their clothes, with materials found locally, for example. And then, besides that, this is a family that makes incense sticks and also incense cones. There you go, like this. It's to have fragrance, it's to have something burning on the altar for ancestor worship. But these families have all gone out to the fields to work. That's why there's no one here. So I invite you now to come with me to the house next door to see what it's like inside. Please. Is this okay here, right? Here, we said to help the guys with the knots. What movie is there? If there's only a song to sing on average. And there you go. As I told you earlier, this is the main entrance door, and all the houses are the same, just like at the Pecure markets. Outside, they put all sorts of things. These are work tools. Clothes are drying in the sun. The roof is made of fiber cement, and the rest is bamboo. All right, then. I've already asked for permission to go inside. So please, you may come in. It's like the house next door. There are always mats to ward off evil spirits. That one, and also this little piece of red cloth. All right, come inside. This is inside the house of Zahid the enemy in this village. So, the most solemn part of the house, of the family, is always this part here. In the middle, obviously, it's right after the main entrance door. You always have an altar for ancestor worship with incense rings burning. And then with pieces of red cloth like that over there, it's to ward off evil spirits. And then it's also to ask for prosperity, for life, for health, for ordinary peace in daily life. That's it. And then besides that, you can see just a little bit over there. Over on the side, those are traditional elevated wooden platforms. They are specifically used for storing essential provisions and various types of food. And they have also carefully placed large, heavy bunches of harvested rice over there, specifically rice that looks just like that. It's heirloom rice. It's for replanting after each harvest. So they always set aside a portion. It's for the next harvest. and on that side as well. And then the whole architecture, there isn't a single iron nail driven into the wood. It's always done with pegs and tenons. It's really very, very simple. And then on the side, those are the bedrooms. It's not really very well insulated, but you just need to put up a little curtain. And like that, it already becomes the private space for a couple. And then apart from that, right next to the main house, you have the kitchen. There you go. And even now, the people here, they still use this kind of kitchen to prepare meals, of course, with pots, with teapots like this, blackened by smoke, and then the stools made of woven bamboo as well. Take a look at this object right here. It has already been passed down and used for a very long time, but this is actually the traditional serving tray used for large family meals. So all the family members would gather around and sit down together to share their food, all around this tray to eat. All right, then, there you go. There is actually quite a bit of food still left over from the meal that we had earlier today, the pantries. And then, with the rapid advancements of contemporary modern life having profoundly and significantly transformed people's long-standing traditional ways of daily living, they have already fully designed and equipped themselves with an entirely different kind of modern kitchen. Gas-powered, it runs on gas. And then, next to it, you also have a kind of pressure cooker. It's for making rice. There you go, the pantry. And there you have it. As you can see, in the city, life is really very, very modern. But around here, they've always kept their traditions up to now. The house, the utensils, the work tools, the kitchen with a wood fire, a wood burning stove, things like that. So the gentleman is preparing something. And then right next to it, you have the water storage. It's to have drinking water for washing, for cooking, and a bit of everything. But it's not the kind of treated running water that is produced in large industrial factories like you would find in modern developed cities. But here, as you saw, there's a pipe. So they brought water like this from the mountain all the way here so they can use it. And you always have the main house with a small house next to it. That's why you have the two levels of time. Two levels of time. During our walk, we're going to stop here to take a quick look at a kind of traditional craft of the Hmong people in this village. So here, this is the production of incense cones and incense sticks. So you can clearly see here, these are the main materials for making incense cones, like this. First of all, you have the licorice roots spread out like this here. So they have processed them, sifted them, and turned them into powder. First that, and then here, the second fruit, this is a kind of fragrant cardamom. And then a bit of cinnamon, there you go. Just like this, by combining these three simple ingredients together, mixed with a sticky binder, and then it will give you something that looks exactly like this. It's really fragrant. And then after that, there are molds. They thoroughly mixed all these things to mold them and then took them out of the mold to get cones like this, as you can see. And all of this is like incense rings. These are used to light in hotels for ancestor worship, for example. And then besides that, with cones like these, you can also use them at home to have a scent that's really light and very warm. And right here, this is a truly remarkable example of the traditional local crafts, which forms a vital part of the rich and vibrant indigenous culture found here, specifically belonging to the Hmong people. It really is quite a significant shame that the Hmong woman we see today isn't currently wearing her full, beautiful traditional dress to showcase her heritage. Obviously, that's because things are already quite mixed between modern life and traditional life. And then, besides that, in this kind of little shop along the way, we can really see also that there are a lot of local products, especially the traditional Hmong fabrics with all kinds of decorations on them, for example. All of this is decorated. Here, they've used batik art, which is traditional among the Hmong in this region. These fabrics are dyed in deep indigo and then meticulously adorned with patterns like this, featuring intricate geometric lines that tell the detailed story of this past year. They try to reflect everything in the world around them. For example, they captured the beauty of nature, the vast rice fields, the flowing rivers, the majestic mountains, and so much more. It's on linen fabrics that they wove themselves, having grown the flax themselves, weaving themselves like this to have all kinds of fabrics like these. And then all of this can very well be used for decoration or to make clothing. So, with all sorts of things like these, it's not just ordinary clothing, but rather this is the cultural life of the Hmong people here. So, all of this tells the story of the past, the present, and the future life of the Hmong in this Sapa region. From Lao Chai province in the northwestern part of Vietnam. There you go. And here, this is the indigo plant. At first, it was truly a natural wild plant. But then, later on, they started using it for dyeing fabrics. That's why, and since then, they began to cultivate this indigo plant to obtain dye. And now it's already the right season to cut the indigo plants, to put them here in vases like this to get dye. But you have to work very hard, really hard, to get the dye just right. And then afterwards, the frames they made like that, this fabric with beeswax, and so with obviously traditional decorative patterns. That's because all these patterns are things they've seen around them. It's nature, it's the mountains, it's hills, it's rivers, it's rice fields, and then also the plants. And then afterwards, with many geometric designs. And above all, the lines like this. It's really what they can find all around them. Okay? For the home, the patterns for decorating this fabric are meant for making clothes. But it's not just clothing, it's also memory, it's tradition, it's everything that lies deep within them. You can clearly see this on the outfit, on the clothes of the woman next to me. It's always with all kinds of decorations. These are designs about cosmic formation, for example, the formation of the universe as well. It's life, it's tradition, it's the life of their innermost being. And when they have always kept all these kinds of patterns, it means that she has sought to express her deep feelings toward her ancestors for a long time. But yes, it's because all of this has already been well passed down from generation to generation up until now. These are hemp threads. And the hemp, they also cultivated it. And when the hemp is harvested, it must be properly dried and the skin removed to make threads. And to make threads, they never have any machines. Everything is done by hand, like this. To get threads like this, they braid them, they roll them. All of this is rolled between their hands. And with this kind of work, Galore is always doing it all the time while walking, while doing something else. And then there are always threads like this hanging from the belt while walking, going to the market, going to the fields, into the mountains. She is always working all the time. That's how it is. So they are really very, very hardworking with meticulous work to get thread so they can weave to have traditional fabrics. And then what next? They have to boil them thoroughly. Here, you can see over here, after doing it like this, then they boil them. This kind of, here, it's still hemp thread that isn't finished yet. When it's, once it's well dried in the sun like this, then she has to beat it with a wooden roller. It's rolled over like this so that it becomes very, very fine. So the thread is thin before making rolls to put on the loom. But today, we didn't see the loom among the Hmong, but you can easily find one elsewhere. And then after that, they are woven to make traditional fabrics. And the traditional fabric looked like this. This is the traditional fabric. It's hemp. But what they've drawn here with the batik art of the Hmong in this region, well, they've put all sorts of things on it using indigo blue. And then the white part, that's the area already well covered with beeswax, and the indigo doesn't dye over that. And when the beeswax is removed, all the designs like this remain. These are well presented patterns. These are flowers, these are hills, these are mountains, terraced rice fields, and rivers too. In other words, everything around them with flowers, with all sorts of things they've seen while working. By carefully preserving and protecting this kind of traditional craft, Galore wants to show their deepest sense of appreciation and gratitude to their ancestors who lived many generations ago. And this craft has been passed down from generation to generation up to now. It still hasn't changed. And in this family, you can really, we are foreign tourists who want to come here and try making batik ourselves in this way, for example. And the lady explains to us how to do it and so on. It's really interesting.